Scientists are reporting that the Earth has grown quieter amid the global coronavirus pandemic. Seismologists studying the Earth's ambient seismic noise say that there's been a significant decrease around the world. They say it's due to the global containment measures in effect aimed to combat the spread of COVID-19. And with less people traveling in cars, buses, and trains, there are less vibrations impacting the Earth's crust on a daily basis. CBS News meteorologist and climate change specialist Jeff Berardelli joins me now. So, Jeff, what exactly does it mean when scientists say that there's less seismic noise?
Rita, by the way, it's very good to see you right now, safe and sound at home. Yeah, a lot less seismic noise, and that's just simply because there's less buses, less subways, less people walking around, less industry. And so we've all kind of seen those seismographs, right? Those rolls of paper where you see a lot of jagged edges when there's a big earthquake. But right now, we're not seeing a lot of jagged edges, kind of like a lie detector test, right? When you lie, there's a lot of jagged edges, and then all of a sudden, when you're not lying, it's kind of a straight line. Well, right now, we have a straight line. And so what seismologists are able to actually detect is earthquakes from far, far away. So the Earth has quieted, the human footprint has quieted, and now we're seeing the results of that.
What do you think scientists can learn, Jeff, during this quiet period? And how do you think it could be used moving forward?
Yeah, we can really quantify the human footprint, how much we affect this Earth and how much we affect nature. You probably saw the video from the canals in Venice where dolphins are returning to places that they haven't been seen in years. There's also a biologist at Cornell who's putting microphones under the water right now to kind of hear the songs of whales. After 9/11, there was a decrease in the amount of stress hormones in whales because there was a decrease in shipping. So we have a very tangible impact on this Earth. And once we're done with this, you can bet there are going to be a lot of scientific studies that come out to show us and kind of quantify just how big of an impact we are having to the other creatures and to the world as a whole on Earth. And hopefully it will change our behaviors somewhat.
Scientists are not only reporting less seismic noise, but pollution also appears to be down around the world because of self-isolation. Jeff, how big of an impact do you think this is going to have during this quarantine period on our atmosphere?
Right. So in the short term, it's having a very big impact. I mean, LA of all places had the best air quality in the world of any city. That was yesterday. Today, New York is number 10 in the world. However, we're seeing pollution return to places like China. About 4 million people die of pollution, either directly or indirectly, around the world every year. There's a Stanford study that just came out, which quantified the amount of deaths that were saved during the 2 months when China shut down. 80,000 people were saved by the decrease in pollution because of the decrease in industrialization in that area, at least for the short term.
And, although we've seen a real global decrease in carbon dioxide emissions, we know less people are driving around in cars as well. Is that really enough to combat the ongoing climate change crisis?
This is a very short-term dip in the emissions of carbon dioxide. What we're more concerned about is the concentration. It's cumulative. It's like putting money in the bank. You keep putting in money in the bank, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. That's what's happening. We're putting carbon dioxide in the bank. So yeah, we'll see a little bit less of an increase this year, but we're not going to see a decrease. And as long as we continue to burn fossil fuels, that's still going to go up. And by the way, I should say that we saw a decrease in the amount of carbon dioxide being put out after the fall of the USSR. We saw a decrease after the last recession in 2008, but it always comes back. At some point, we have to increase the amount of economic output, and so therefore we see spikes. And so even if we see a short-term downturn, we're going to see a longer-term upturn unless we change our habits.
Jeff, how long do you think this would need to continue for us to be able to see some sort of long-term change in the situation?
Um, this obviously is not sustainable. We need to return to some normalcy. This would have to continue indefinitely, which obviously is not possible. But we can use this as a model. A lot of scientists are talking about how this brings us back to kind of a background state right around the Industrial Revolution. So we need to figure out how to replicate this, but in a sustainable way. We obviously can't decrease our activity. We have 7.8 billion people on this earth. The economy needs to move forward, but we need to figure out how to do it in a sustainable way. Right now, there are trillions of dollars being spent in economic packages from the government. We would have not done it otherwise, but because of this crisis, we're forced to do it. And we ought to take a moment to think about how we can change how we can change our economic system, how we can change the way that we create energy and the way that we create industry right now for the long term. We're putting all this money in. We might as well figure out how this can benefit us in the long term by making ourselves more sustainable. Will we do that? Well, I think it just remains to be seen, Rena.
Jeff Berardelli, so great to see you, Jeff, and thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.